Officially, everyone. I'm Celeste Stimson. I think I do know everyone on this call, so I hopefully I've met you. But if not, I am the Service to the Armed Forces and International Services Program Director, and I believe we'll have Bo Blanchard on our meeting here shortly. He is our Service to the Armed Forces Manager. So many of you are probably fairly familiar with our programs, but hopefully you learned something new today or a way that we can collaborate better together, work together better, work smarter, not harder is always my goal. So, but just going to go ahead and jump in for those of you who are new to the Red Cross or may not be as familiar with our services. Please feel free to ask questions, throw them in the chat if you'd like. Abby's going to help me with that. Or if you just want to come off mute and ask a question, that's totally fine. This doesn't have to be a formal presentation. I'd love for us to have a little bit of time to chat about how we can partner better together here in Northern New England. So, but just to get us kicked off, do you want to kind of just highlight, this is just a helpful way, I think, to share the buckets of our program. So we here in our department do cover two different types of services and programs, our service to the armed forces side and our international services US-based programs. So we have our Hero Care Network services, our resiliency programs, and our VA programs. Those are our three main goal-based and metric programs within service to the armed forces. But I will talk a little bit also about some of our other programs and services that we provide that just offer additional support for our military and veteran community. And then we also have our international services programs, Restoring Family Links, International Humanitarian Law, and our Youth Action Campaign. So I'll talk a little bit more about all of these throughout the presentation this afternoon. So, of course, no Red Cross presentation would be proper without a comment about Clara Barton, but I think it's especially important when we're talking about service to the armed forces because that's really how the Red Cross originated on the battlefield. Clara Barton was serving Civil War soldiers and supported communication with letters and notifying families about the losses of a service member during that time period. And what that experience really initiated what ended up her being involved in what is now a global movement. So it's really important just to remember, really, the Red Cross did start within our service to the armed forces. So and then she started doing that in 1861, and it was 20 years later that we really were able. She was the first president of the American Red Cross. So we also are we were the first congressional charter for the American Red Cross. We are, that started in 1905. We are the communication line between the people of the United States and the military. So we are that communication line for those military families. So we still serve that purpose and have been doing that since 1905 officially. But we carry a long legacy of serving our military branches, our veterans for more than 130 years. So I'm just really proud to be able to continue that mission and serve our military and veteran community. So who do we serve? So within service to the armed forces, we do serve all branches of the military, active duty, our National Guard, our reserves, veterans of all statuses, military and their families. So military and veteran family members are a big focus for us here in service to the armed forces. A lot of our services actually do focus around those family members who are living and supporting their veteran or their service member. And then we do also support DoD civilians that are overseas. We do help with emergency messages if they need it. So that's just another one to remember. It's pretty rare that we get those types of calls, but they do happen. So our mission still today is to just provide comfort and care to our military members and their families. So we do that in several different ways. So we'll just dig right into it. So our primary services, this is really our primary mission and has been since 1905, is our emergency services. So we provide several types of emergency services for our military and veteran community. The first one being our emergency messages. Our emergency communication messages is if a military family loses or has an emergency. It could be a death of a loved one. It does need to be a close family member, immediate family member, or someone that was in lieu of an immediate family member. If there's a death, illness, injury, or some other sort of circumstance that would require that service member to come home, what we do is we provide that communication piece. So we collect information. Our military families can call directly into our Hero Care Network, which is a 24/7 line where they can just convey that information. Where is the service member located? Their unit information, what's the emergency going on, what's the relationship for the service member. And we collect all that information, verify it with a third party. It could be a hospital, a nursing home, a morgue, a funeral home. And so that is verified. And we verify that emergency is actually happening. And then we put it in a formatted message, and then that goes to that service member's commander. And then from there, the command decides if, based on what information they receive, if they would allow that service member to go home to be with their family for that emergency. We do not make that decision. That is ultimately up to the command, depending on the mission that's happening there on the ground where that service member is. But then we do here in the region follow up with that family to check in. Were they sent home? Were they able to go home on leave? Do they need additional support? Do they need financial assistance for travel? These are the types of things that we here in the region follow up and work with them because we are that local touch. So the Hero Care Network, for the most part, handles the majority of that case, but we're here to make sure that we have a warm handoff either to another organization or we're able to kind of send that family on their way. So we provide that. We also provide access to financial assistance. Just to be clear, service to the armed forces does not provide any direct financial support for any circumstances. We partner with military aid societies to basically vet military members and veterans for financial assistance. The needs can vary quite widely, to be honest. It could be anything from they're really behind on some bills and just need to get through and pay a couple of things off. Or maybe they do need money for emergency travel if they're stationed in Japan. Imagine, bringing home 3 or 4 family members from Japan and to Maine or Vermont or New Hampshire, and how much that would cost last minute. So these are the types of things that the aid societies can support, as well as support for financial assistance for military retirees. So it's primarily for active duty or retirees. So what we end up doing is if those families, veterans don't qualify for financial assistance, they kind of fall into what our third bucket of services is, which is our critical community services. And I'll talk about that a little bit more here in a minute because we do that in several different ways. We do also reach out. Part of our case workload is our new recruits. We reach out proactively to new military families to share about our emergency services so that they're aware of them before something happens. And we call that briefing, get to know us before you need us. So we work with our military entrance processing station to make sure we get information on all our new military families, and then we send out and communicate those services to them. So that's emergency messages, financial assistance, and then our new military members which we call our MEPS cases. And then our critical community services, we really provide that. This is a little bit more like in disaster services, a recovery caseworker. We have caseworkers through the local Northern New England region that support veterans and military families for these critical community services cases. We also work directly with disaster services to support veterans and military families that have been impacted by a disaster. So with everything that's been going on this past fall and early last summer, we are supporting the veterans and military members that have been impacted by those disasters. We're connecting them with additional resources where they may qualify for maybe some more financial assistance, or they might be able to get connected to get new furniture or things like that, depending on what their need is. So every case is different when it comes to these situations. We work with homeless veterans that are looking for housing resources. We work with military families that maybe are apart and they're looking for someone to help. Maybe their furnace broke or they have, some transportation issues. It really just depends on the circumstances. So we'll work with them to get them connected and referred to the right agencies. And again, a warm handoff in those situations as well. So we run about 1,500 cases total a year between all the types of calls that we get. So we stay fairly busy when it comes to that. And the nice thing, if you ever have a volunteer that is looking for a virtual role, we do tend to have some opportunities within our casework to help support that. So if you have a volunteer, it's hard for them to get to the office or get to certain events, and maybe you're having a hard time keeping them engaged. Just remember that we do have virtual opportunities here in service to the armed forces. So our other bucket of services is our resiliency programs. These are primarily targeted for anybody in the military and veteran community. Our Get to Know Us Before You Need Us briefing, that is for our active duty members. That is really where we go out to events for pre-deployment events. If a unit's deploying, we make sure to remind them about our services and who to call, and that their family knows. We have coping with deployment workshops as well, and this is really to help families prepare for that long separation. And then really our biggest focus here in Northern New England is mind body workshops and our reconnection workshops. So we offer a lot of different types of programming. We partner with several organizations around the region and are always looking for new opportunities. So these are just a list of some of the types of topics that our workshops cover. We work with this picture here is actually with Camp Resilience. This was a women's retreat back in the summer, and we supported some mind body workshops. And so these are peer-to-peer support workshops. It's not counseling, but we have volunteer facilitators who have mental health and behavioral health licenses to support these types of what can be difficult conversations for some of our military and veteran families and communities. So we also support caregivers through this program. We work with the VA to offer workshops, and this can be done in person or virtually. And then we also offer them to kids and teens. So we've worked with military retreat centers to offer these to military families, and we can break the parents off from the teens and the kids and offer workshops that way. So there's lots of different options on getting this information out in the community, but it really is a great opportunity to help these families build skills for resiliency, to deal with the challenges of military life or being a veteran. So those are offered really at request, or we also once a month offer a virtual workshop here in the region. That is on the regional events and training calendar. If you're ever just interested in kind of seeing what it's like, feel free to sign up for that. We would love to just have you join us and just get an idea of what that program is a little bit more like. If you're connected with a veteran community at all, please feel free to share this info with them. And then our last bucket of services within SAF is our partnership with the VAs. So we are part of what was created in 1946, right after World War II, the VA Voluntary Services. And so we are one of many organizations that support the VA. So what that looks like, that is still something that's being rebuilt here in our region. COVID definitely made that a challenge. We had to pull all of our volunteers out. And so we were looking to rebuild those programs, but we're really here to help support the needs of the VA, whether it's providing support materials. We help with recreational therapy supplies. We can help with any sort of morale program. So we're actually have made some progress this year in starting to rebuild some of those opportunities, especially in Maine and in New Hampshire. We're fingers crossed going to have animal visitation teams. We'll have therapy dogs available to support some of the veterans in the hospital. So that's still a work in progress here in the region, but there's just lots of opportunity to build those programs back up and get more involved. So that's really kind of the main parts of our programming within service to the armed forces, but we do a lot more than that. to make sure people know about our services. So we do a lot of outreach. We go to as many military and veteran events around the region as we can, and we're always looking to grow that. I'll just say this right now: if you see a flyer for a veteran event, or you get something comes across your email, and it may be something that, even if we're already involved in it, I don't mind getting an email saying, "Hey, Celeste, do you know about this event?" They happen all the time. And so we are constantly looking to just get into these communities and make sure that they know we're here to help support them. So outreach is a huge part of what we do. We do borrow volunteers sometimes, because these events don't happen in all the areas every day. Just like, as everyone knows, fires don't happen that way either. So this is another opportunity for us to um, just reach out to the community, and work together to engage our volunteers is really what I think is the greatest part about it. And to expose them to a new part of the Red Cross that maybe someone's not familiar with. And so here is a kind of a list of some of our other programs. Some of these are in the works, but I did want to share them so that it's not the first time you see it. If you get an email or we have an informational session about it sometime down the road. We do support a lot of military and veteran holiday support. This is still kind of being rebuilt as well, post-COVID, but we did have an opportunity this year to support military cards for the holidays in New Hampshire, and we're looking to kind of expand that as we go through this upcoming year. We also support grant funds for the hospital, so we can work with the VA to, they let us know what their needs are, and we get grant money to help support that, and we can purchase items to help develop the programs there, and just to help build the morale of our veterans when they're maybe there for a long stay, or they may be someone that's just coming in and out as an outpatient. We also have a program. We kicked this off last February after a few years of pause. Our Veterans History Project. We partner with the Library of Congress to support the recording or the interview of a veteran, and just get a firsthand perspective of their time and experience in the military. So what happens is we interview them, we record that, and we provide that recording to the Library of Congress, and then we also give a copy of it to the veteran, so they can share that with friends and family, if they want to have that, just for their own historical purposes. So that's something that we also offer. A lot of veterans have great stories to tell, and this is just a way for us to kind of keep that on file and for future use, down the road. So that's offered. That is a free program. We do have flyers on that. And any of these programs here, if you don't have information on them and you'd like it, I'm happy to send out some information on some of these programs. We also, through headquarters, have what's called the Military and Veteran Caregiver Network, and this is specifically focused around those who are caring for our veterans. So the spouses, the children, the partners of our veterans who need long-term care and are maybe there 24/7. There can be a lot of burnout for anyone that has been or is a caregiver. You know what it can feel like. So this network is to help support those caregivers, or maybe it's a veteran that is a caregiver. That also happens. So we work with them. We offer resiliency workshops for them as well, but we also provide this resource is a virtual resource for them to connect together and really support one another, learn from one another, get additional resources and information that can just kind of help them in their journey as a caregiver. And we also have 2 new programs that are going to be coming out soon. I don't have a ton of detail, but just like the Military and Veteran Caregiver Network, we are developing a veteran peer-to-peer network. So that's going to be veterans supporting veterans. So that's going to be coming. It will be ran through our headquarters as well, and a virtual option too. And then SkillBridge is still in the works, but this could be an opportunity to connect recently separated or retired military members to jobs. which also means we can connect them to jobs at the Red Cross. So I'm excited to share more about that once that happens. I have just started helping with the working group for this and excited to see how we can help transitioning military members find meaningful work here in our region. So those are our programs within SAF. And we also, outside of our region, do support Service to the Armed Forces has a global footprint. We're in installations around the world. We're at military deployment sites. And more than ever, with the tempo of armed conflict that is happening in the world, our Service to the Armed Forces staff are present around the world more than ever. Each of our regions has at least one mobile staff member that is supports international deployments. So this is an opportunity where they will deploy and support a deployment site that will help with continuity of emergency messages and morale for our troops overseas. The Red Cross is only one of 2 organizations that deploys with the military. The USO is the only other organization. So it's a pretty special role that we have to be able to do that as the Red Cross. So we're out there on these deployment sites just like our military is. And this slide is really just to kind of show you the continuum of care that we have for our military and veteran community from that first day that they're going to MEPS and they're swearing in. We make sure that their families know about our services, that they know about our services, their time in deployment, their time in the service. And as they get out, right, we're supporting workshops, we're supporting the VA clinics, and any sort of services that they may need. We want to make sure they get connected to those. So it's really just kind of to show you, demonstrate that part of it. So from enlistee to veteran, we're there to support this community. So just kind of like I said, it's an incomparable role. We reach our global. We have a global reach, and we really do look to support. We are really the only organization, Red Cross organization, that has this type of department, but we do focus on neutrality. So to kind of roll that in, the reason that Service to the Armed Forces and international services are combined is because we want to reflect that neutrality. We're supporting everybody that is impacted by armed conflict, including our military, but also those who may be on the other side of it. So we do have international services programs. These are our US-based programs. Our international services department and division is very large. There are other programs and services that are available, but this is what we focus on here in our region. So I'll dig into that. Are there any questions or anything about SAF before I start talking a little bit more about international services? No questions, just a hi, Celeste.
Celeste, I'll just say hi and say I really like that slide about the continuum of service. So if you can make sure you send these slides out, I would love to take that with me on some community meetings.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
Sure.
I would second that. And I just wonder, it said space services on your line of service that you serve. And I wonder what space service is. Is that actually a NASA?
Space Force.
Space Force. What? I don't know Space Force, I guess.
Space Force is, yeah, just Google it. It's our newest branch of the military. It's very small. It's branched off from the Air Force. And yeah, just do some digging there.
I will. I'll Google it right now. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, Nicole.
No, I'm sorry. I was just going to say thank you. This was really informative. And I always am so amazed that sometimes I feel like, oh, I know what we do. I know what we do. And then when we get into somebody who's actually an expert in what we do in a certain subject, I always learn something. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So, and hi, Bo, welcome. So we are, going to dig into U.S. programs here now. So our 3 buckets within international services are our Restoring Family Links program, our international humanitarian law, and then our youth action campaign actually falls under our international humanitarian law program. It's just specifically targeted for the youth audience. So the international services movement really started with Henry Dunant right around the same time that Clara Barton was realizing what was going on here in the U.S. with the Civil War. The same thing was happening overseas, and he really started this movement. And so That's really where the neutrality, all of our fundamental principles came from. And the international services still really focuses on educating our public on the history of our society, the history of the ICRC and the IFRC. All of that is still part of the educational movement that we have here in the U.S. So he had a two-part vision. After experiencing the Battle of Solferino in Italy, he really decided that he wanted to develop a two-part vision. One was an international agreement to help alleviate suffering during international conflict, and to develop an organization of volunteers for each nation that could provide that humanitarian assistance in a neutral way. So Henry Dunant's vision came to life, and here we are 130 years later, still talking about it. So they two oceans apart, or two continents apart, and they came together to just bring humanity to war. And that's still what we're doing within our international services US-based programs. So the way this works is we have our Restoring Family Links program. This program is offered to international families. It is not to seek out ever US citizens. Just a couple of things. We can connect family members. We do not reunite family members. If there is a family member overseas and a family is trying to get them to the United States, we do not provide that portion. We're really there if they have completely lost touch with that family member. We can help them reconnect for communication purposes. But the State Department is in charge of any sort of reunification efforts here in the U.S. Each Red Cross or Red Crescent Society is different, so it depends. It varies on how they use Restoring Family Links, but here in the U.S., we help locate those missing family members, and we can also provide documentation during wartime if they were a prisoner of war and need that for any sort of informational purposes or personal use. So the way this program works is it really is twofold, a two-way opportunity to serve international families. So we could have a family here in the region reach out to us and say, you know, I came here to the U.S. 3 years ago. I've lost complete contact with my family. I would really like to help finding them. So what we do is collect as much information as we can about that situation, how they were separated, where they believe that family member may be, or where they last had, communication. And then we collect that at the chapter level, and then we provide that information to our national headquarters. They make sure it's all good to go, because what's going to happen is it's going to get sent to a national society where we believe that family member was last located. And then it's their role to start seeking that person out, whether it's through their database or if they have to go out in the community and start looking for that person. And so these cases can take a while, but we do have success in this program. And then they'll go find that person in the community and let them know, hey, your loved one back in the U.S. Is looking for you. And despite everything that happens when people are impacted by armed conflict, disaster, if someone can hear the words, I'm alive, but can you imagine your closest loved one being separated from you for years and years, and then you finding out they're alive is the biggest relief I think anybody could ever have. So this program does support a huge load off these families when they find out that their loved one is still alive. And then they're able to connect them for communication purposes. And this same process can happen in reverse. So there could be someone overseas seeking a family member that maybe came to the United States, and that national society will collect information just like we did here in the U.S. It will come to our headquarters, and if it pings that it's Vermont, Maine, or New Hampshire, that case comes to us here at the regional level, where we start to really do detective work to look for that family member and see if we can find any information. Sometimes we come up and we find a family member, and sometimes we're unsuccessful in making any contact. Maybe they moved and it has to be sent to another region. That happens as well. So this program is a great opportunity to serve the international community here in our region. One of the areas that we always need help with is if you are connected with international communities, please share this information with them. We have flyers in all languages. So just let me know, reach out. We're happy to provide flyers and information on any of the languages that we have available for this program. It really is a challenge to outreach to this community because of the language barriers. And once they are integrated into communities, they can really be all over the place. So it can be a challenge, but very well worth it once you see someone's face and them finding out some really good news. So our other programs are more educational based here in the region. So our international humanitarian law is still just our commitment to the ICRC to educate our public on the rules of armed conflict. So this is really to bring, again, humanity to war. We talk about the 4 principles of international humanitarian law. And really the ultimate goal of these laws is to help alleviate human suffering, to help limit it so that there's not unnecessary suffering in armed conflict. So it's a good opportunity for those that are watching the news to have a new lens and understand what they're seeing happening around the world and be able to interpret that and have a new perspective on what's going on based on what they have learned from international humanitarian law. We found that a lot of our communities don't understand what the law of armed conflict is, and so this is an opportunity to teach them just the basics. So we offer 3 classes within international humanitarian law here in the region. Even War Has Rules is just our 1-hour introductory class. Our Born on the Battlefield is more of an intermediate 3-hour course. And we do have Humanity in War, and this is primarily for professionals. We're talking lawyers, those actively practicing within the international humanitarian law community. But then we also offer a lot of different educational and outreach opportunities within international humanitarian law. We offer essay contests, art contests. There's a law school competition, and all of these are just ways to get this information out in the community in unique and creative ways. And then you've probably seen, information on our international humanitarian law. We have at headquarters, they offer a lot of different special presentations and topics that are a wide variety, from pop culture, analyzing Star Wars and Marvel movies, to talking about, more current events and how do we respond as the Red Cross to some of these comments or what's happening around the world in a way. Because I don't know if anyone else is, but I know that we get questions a lot about what the Red Cross is doing and what our role is in some of the conflicts that are currently going on in the world. So this is a great way to learn about that and be able to speak to it well and not just be like, I don't really know, but you can really understand. We really do try to help people understand what our role is. So that's our international humanitarian law program. That is for the public. And then we also have our youth action campaign, which is specifically targeted to our youth audiences, ages 13 to 24. And we're really just we educate them and then empower them to educate their peers. They create creative campaigns to spread the word about international humanitarian law. So really, again, we teach the international humanitarian law about the rules that govern armed conflict, and really, the goal is to have less suffering and victims, especially civilian deaths, less refugees, and the destruction of society. Hospitals, that infrastructure that is so important to keep a community and a society together. So that's part of the reason that Youth Action Campaign is just an important part of it, but also why we do it is because our youth are fighting our wars. They are going to be running our governments and our future, and they are exposed to media more than ever. And so we want to make sure they're well informed on this topic and not misunderstanding what they see in a movie or in a video game, that those aren't accurate depictions of really how it works here in the real world. So participants can support this. It's a great leadership opportunity for students to help develop a campaign for their school and then execute that throughout the school year. Each year we offer a different theme so that students can return year over year. So we educate them on the theme. This year's theme is nuclear weapons. And then we educate them on the topic of nuclear weapons. And then we work with the students to develop a campaign in their community, school community. It can be partly a social media campaign. And then they also can offer in-person activities to help educate their peers in creative ways. And then once they wrap that up at the end of the school year, they can actually submit a campaign summary, and then students, headquarters selects students across the country to attend the Youth Action Campaign Summit in Washington, D.C. So this is a great potential travel opportunity for students too that may not have that otherwise. So just a great program all around as far as developing leaders and well-educated students. Go ahead, Abby.
Just a quick question about that. Is there a time period when they have to like start that program, or can they start it kind of any time during the year?
Yeah, the great question. So the way it works, we do kind of fall with the school year. I encourage groups to get started at least with training in the fall, and then that gives them the spring semester to go through their campaign, execute the campaign, and then the summaries. If they're not interested in the summary, not all groups want to do that. They just want to kind of be involved in the process. But if they do want that, that has to be wrapped up and submitted by the first week of May every year. And so there's no summer activity. So it really does fall with the school year. But I encourage groups, if you're not finished with your training by the fall semester, it's going to be just hard to get the time to develop your campaign and then execute it. So hopefully that answers your question. All right, so that's Youth Action Campaign, and really kind of the summary of our international services programs here in the region. So actually I just have one more slide before I ask if there's any questions, but this is just, I talked about this a little bit throughout the presentation, but wanted to just kind of put it all in one slide, just ways that we can work better together, so support and collaborate within our department. One is our veteran and military events. We do try to put all of our events on the calendar, regional events and training calendar. If you're interested, or you think a volunteer would be interested, please feel free to share that with them. I know, tap into our staff and have them reach out if we are a little short on volunteers for something. And it's always a really great opportunity to kind of let cross train our volunteers so that they can do different things and be able to support the Red Cross better, and hopefully give them a better volunteer experience. So share the event info with volunteers if it sounds like something that your team would be interested in. It may be just one or two of them, but if it's one or two, that's great. Feel free to join in or support an event. We try to make sure that those are available for as many people as we can. Some of our events, we can bring as many as we want. Some limits just based on space and things like that. So we can only have a couple at a time. But still looking for, again, like I said, if you know of military or veteran events going on in your communities, it comes across your email or your desk, send those our way. It may be something we're aware of and involved in, but maybe it's not, and it could be a new opportunity for us to support that community. And then just, like I said, share that information and our resources with your network. Some ideas here, if you have the military and veteran communities that you're involved in or loved ones are involved in, or if you know caregivers, family members, these are great ways to outreach to them too. And then on the international services side, if you are connected with international communities or organizations, please feel free to connect us and make sure that they know about Restoring Family Links. We're happy to get information to them, to do a presentation, or if there's an event going on, we'll do our best to make sure we can get to that and support that community as well. And then the International Humanitarian Law and Youth Action Campaign, this is mostly virtual. We can do in-person offerings, but this kind of opens it up quite a bit. We do work with our youth clubs, but libraries, that's another opportunity. Student organizations within high schools or our colleges. Those are also opportunities. If anyone interested in international affairs, we've gotten some great connections lately here in the region, just to kind of push the information out about our opportunities. So if you have any of those that you run across, please feel free to share that with us. We would love to connect with them. So that's just some ways that you can support or collaborate with us. We do always try to make sure we have information anytime we're out in the community about all of our services. So we provide information on smoke alarms and our preparedness programs. We try as much as we can. If we always make sure there's information on volunteer recruitment there. So we put all of that out because we want everybody to know about all of our services that the Red Cross offers, because you never know who you're going to run into at any of these events, and make a really good connection that can be a long-term volunteer or a long-term partnership for us to support the communities that we serve. So I've done a lot of talking. Are there any questions or ideas that are or anything that I can provide at this point for anybody? Go ahead, Caroline.
Amazing job, Celeste. I'm just thinking outside of my brain here. Can we do this again and invite everyone, all our boards, all our volunteers, all our friends, to do this program again? Because I know obviously our intended audience here was our staff. But I think there's so much here that our volunteers and our boards could really help with. So I'd love to just touch base with you and figure out a day and a time to set this up to do it again, for those for our volunteer audiences.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna stop recording, but yeah, I think that this